And the next set has to do with the scarcity of time. And I love the scarcity of time. I think I mentioned it earlier because it is a universal thing that kids can connect to. Not every student gets an allowance. We know this, right? For some of our students, and myself growing up, it is just a normal household expectation to help out with things. Some students get allowances. So there can be examples in personal finance that don't apply to everybody, but the scarcity of time, our kids can understand that part. So within these lessons, we are really hitting a lot of the same standards, except in math. These are designed around third grade math standards. So we're looking at light algebra, like introduction to algebra, and then measurements and I can't remember what the other D stands for in that standard. But looking at measurement and data. I got there. So again, that Minnesota Council on Economic Education, it is a mathematics and economics curriculum, which is why there are math standards included in it. But again, I think you could scale up or down according to the level of your students very easily. So the first lesson I have here is called Service Group Choices. This is about students who have 3 options. They've all agreed in this scenario. They've all agreed to give up 3 hours of time on a Saturday to help improve their school. And it's a learning service group. They're donating their time. And they have 3 options. I think they only show 2 of them here. Raking leaves for 1 hour, repairing swings takes 1 hour, and then potting or planting bulbs takes 1 hour. And we put our students in groups. It's a small group activity, and they have to think, if they have 3 hours, what is the best use of their time? Now, again, these could be adapted to meet your school needs. For example, if you guys don't have swing sets, then you're going to want to choose a different activity, perhaps. But then we look at the whole group decisions. You can have an option for visually displaying these cards and what different groups decide as well. And then they analyze that data to create that frequency table. And I have a little bit of some of this. No, the next slide is going to show a little clip of that. And then the lesson beneath it is called How Much Time. This is great because it includes a review on how to tell time, not necessarily an analog clock, which I don't know. I used to say to my kids, wave at me if your kids could use some practice on an analog clock. But it does talk about elapsed time and gives kids some practice in elapsed time. And I think that is something that is just a great little sneaky thing to fit in whenever we can. I mean, maybe your students are amazing at it. My kiddos had some challenges. So they do a little time review, elapsed time review, and then they look at alternatives on how they could use their time. And they start to identify the opportunity cost or the thing they're giving up when they're allocating their time. So that's kind of the next level to it, right? First is recognizing that we have to make decisions with our scarce resources. The second level that we're going to talk about in a minute is understanding there is an opportunity cost or a second best choice that we're giving up. And then a third level, I think, would be using decision-making models and strategies, like perhaps the PACE decision-making model. Please let me know in the chat if you're not familiar with a PACE, and to really be thinking about criteria and alternatives when making those decisions. But I digress. Sorry. In this How Much Time, let's just go ahead and click over so you can see some of the visuals from that one. So in this How Much Time lesson, you can see this first part. If you can't, I'm going to go ahead and read it. Again, I don't normally do this, but I want to make sure everyone is accessible to the information. So you want to audition for a part in the school musical. So every day after school, you practice for the audition by reading lines for the script for 20 minutes, singing for 20 minutes, and dancing for 20 minutes. And then they go through the little scenarios. You have a dentist appointment after school tomorrow and you only have 40 minutes. What activities will you do? Another day you can only practice for 20 minutes and you decide to read lines from the script, but you really wanted to dance. What's the opportunity cost there? And then in addition, we're looking at Mr. Sanchez's class schedule over here, how he chose to allocate the resources, the time within his class schedule, and then just graphing it and looking at percentages and circle graphs and elapsed time. And overall, I just think it's a really fun lesson. I've also noted these Kittynomics videos here. That is referenced within the lesson as one of the supplemental materials that you can use to kind of enhance learning. And they're very cute. They're very short. Less than 2 minutes each one. I would recommend watching them twice. I would recommend watching it once just to enjoy the fact that it's a cat video, and then a second time to actually maybe focus on the vocabulary and learning that's happening within the video. If you can't see there, they talk about making choices with preference. Then they talk about making choices with value. And then they talk about opportunity cost, and they wrap up with scarcity. But it's very cute. That is Professor Oliver in the videos. And I think that if with any economics lesson where you're introducing these topics, it would be really fun supplemental materials for the kiddos. Okay, so now we're going to jump into opportunity costs, which I kind of touched on before. So we make decisions because of scarcity. And when we make a choice, the road not traveled, the second best thing, the option we gave up, is our opportunity cost. And these lessons, I think, are fantastic because I think this is where you dig into really budgeting as an amazing example. It's a great way to introduce the concept of budgeting. Budgeting exists because our resource is scarce, right? So we are trying to allocate it in the most positive way possible. And a really awesome lens for students to choose that or to view that through is planning a party. We have some really great lessons here for grades 1st through 4th or 4th, 5th on planning a party. And I really do think you could adapt these whole group, small group, to any grade level that you really needed to. But a couple things about this. One, I think it's very accessible for students. It's a fun way to start thinking about decision making. You'll see with some of the examples in the lessons, I find it very, it's simpler than you kind of think it would be. When we talk about these lessons briefly, I just want to say we are still within those same economic standards. We touch a little bit more on spending and saving, which is when we're making a plan for spending. Within math, you're looking at, again, measurement and data. One of these has a bar graph. Some of the 2nd grade ones, which you will note, have a number dash next to it. Yes, so we have G1-6. I apologize, that wasn't supposed to be included in the PowerPoint. That would mean it's a 1st grade lesson. The 2 G2 lessons are, of course, 2nd grade, and those talk on order of operations, I think, in algebraic thinking, standards 1 and 2. Using a budget to shop for a party, that last one for grades 4 and 5, that's from the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. They also have a really great repository of financial literacy activities that are low or no prep and very much mini lessons or standalone lessons. I do pull from them frequently. They unfortunately do not include Common Core standards in there, but you are looking at simple addition or subtraction calculation anytime. You could also feel free to add in decimals, of course, if you wanted to make this more challenging or an extension activity for students. So looking at birthday party budgets are fun ways for students to make choices, but also recognize that you're giving up something in exchange for your choice. Obviously, birthday parties, like I mentioned, or a welcome party, or just any party. And then the second lesson talks about a playground example, which is also a very universal way for students to kind of access these choices. So with a finite resource like the number, if you have swing sets, the number of swings. These are another option that you can use to kind of give students, all students, the ability to connect with the material and kind of see themselves in the problem. But I really do, let's see here.